On the morning of August 20th, 2015, the magazine Texas Monthly published a feature article entitled Silence at Baylor, which made explosive claims about a troubling pattern of behavior by Baylor University's football program of ignoring and downplaying sexual assault allegations against its players for years. The article was timed to coincide with the criminal sexual assault trial of Sam Ukwachu, a highly touted transfer on Baylor's football team. Nearly 2 years prior, on October 20th, 2013, Ukwachu had raped a female student who played for the Baylor soccer team. The next day, she went to the hospital and reported the rape to police. Baylor University officials conducted an internal investigation that resulted in no punishment for Ukwachu. During the investigation, Ukwachu continued to attend classes, several of which his victim was also enrolled in. She was advised by Baylor to avoid him and had her athletic scholarship reduced, leading her to transfer at the end of the year. Ukwachu was then indicted on criminal sexual assault charges in June of 2014. Despite the criminal indictment, Ukwachu spent the next full year attending classes and practicing with the football team, though he did not play in games. No reason was ever given why Ukwachu sat out, nor was the reason investigated or reported by the media, despite Ukwachu's indictment being publicly available. The public was not even aware of his trial the day the Texas Monthly article came out. On the night of August 20th, Ukwachu was found guilty on 2 counts of sexual assault. This came as a major surprise to even the most hardcore Baylor football fans, and it seemed to confirm the damning allegations in the article. The guilty verdict, coupled with the Texas Monthly article, proved to be a major story both locally and nationally, and one that would send Baylor University into a crisis that is still ongoing. Some of the relevant context about this crisis is that the Baylor football program was in the midst of an unprecedented run of success. Head coach Art Briles had been hired in 2008, and he turned the historically losing program into a national powerhouse. They were national championship contenders, even winning a Heisman Trophy with quarterback Robert Griffin III in 2011. Briles was adored by alumni and program boosters. He was a superstar in Waco, Texas, and he earned a healthy $6 million a year salary. That football success led directly to higher national profile and a fundraising boon. Baylor raised over $400 million between 2012 and 2016. In addition to that, they built a new $226 million football stadium, which opened in 2014. One board member remarked in 2012, "As we would say in Christendom, it's like an early rapture. We spent 40 years wandering the wilderness. I hope this is our exit." Baylor University is the world's largest Baptist university. It's located in Waco, Texas, and it has explicit Christian values at the core of its identity and stated mission. Crucial to this case is the strict moral code for students, which includes no underage drinking and no premarital sex. But Ukwachu was not the first football player to have been indicted for criminal sexual assault. In 2012, football player Tevin Elliott was indicted for sexually assaulting a female student, then convicted of rape in 2013. Several other women stepped forward during the trial, claiming that he raped them as well. The Texas Monthly article revealed that Ukwachu's criminal indictment had been held from the public, that there were red flags regarding Ukwachu when he transferred from Boise State the year prior, and that Baylor's internal investigation was wholly inadequate in the eye of the judge. Now, the crisis had several distinct periods, the first of which immediately followed the verdict and the article. At this time, the university issued a brief press release condemning sexual assault. The next day, University President Ken Starr released a slightly longer statement, announcing in part that he would initiate an internal investigation, which took about 7 days and was conducted by a faculty member at Baylor. And that following morning, Art Briles, the head football coach, went on a radio show vehemently denying knowing anything about Ukwachu's violence in his past. But that was contradicted the same day by the head coach of Boise State. And later that day, Briles had to walk back his comments. This is the beginning of President Ken Starr's statement. And I want to highlight a little of it because I find it to be quite meandering and tone deaf. If you notice the epigraph before the message, it's really inappropriate. There's a time for everything, a time to mourn, a time to dance. His opening sentence, by God's grace, we are living in a golden era at Baylor University, referring to the victim there as another former student athlete. And the emphasis is not on the victim. It's not clear, it's not direct. Additionally, Starr's call for an internal investigation was widely looked at as inadequate, with conflicts of interests, and not transparent. During this initial period, the media coverage, instigated by the Texas Monthly Report, really just looked at what was going on at Baylor, and the Texas newspapers led the way. But crucially, ESPN, the national sports media outlet, started covering the story, and this would really drive the media narrative going forward. The next period of the crisis started on September 2nd, when Baylor Board of Regents announced that a comprehensive external investigation would be launched by an outside law firm, Pepper Hamilton. But this period would really be marked by the emerging media narrative. It seemed as if almost each new day brought new allegations and details of sexual assaults, and the way that they emerged, drip by drip, fit the media narrative of a rape culture and fed the content, the news cycle, so that it was never exhausted. There was always something new to report and discuss. Not only was ESPN at the lead here, but news media, sports media, talk shows of all formats found some interest in this story. But ESPN was the most influential because it has a 24-hour sports news and opinion programming. And as I said, the Baylor story kept producing new content. The media narrative was very negative for Baylor. It was always about sexual assault and university complicity. It was a constant topic of discussion in sports media. Additionally, multiple Title IX lawsuits emerged during this period, as well as new incidents of sexual assaults, including a fraternity president and more football players who were suspended, expelled from the team. Female students at the university shared their sexual assault stories via social media. Students, faculty, and staff even organized a vigil outside of University President Starr's home, protesting the handling of sexual assault. There was intense speculation about what would happen to the beloved Coach Briles and President Starr and the athletic director. During this time, the Title IX coordinator, Patty Crawford, resigned, citing that she was not getting the support at Baylor that they had promised. The next period was a very turbulent one, but started to turn the corner in terms of Baylor being proactive. The Pepper Hamilton investigation finished, and the Board of Regents released a finding of facts, which included 105 specific recommendations that the university could do to improve its handling of sexual assault. But crucially, it did not include any specific names, dates, or details about the past. Highlights of the Pepper Hamilton finding of facts included an overall indictment of the entire university, citing a lack of funding, training, support for their Title IX enforcement. It accused administrators of victim blaming singled out the football program for failure to report and actively shielding players from Title IX and criminal investigations. Baylor immediately took action. President Ken Starr was demoted and ended up resigning a few months later. Head football coach Art Briles was fired. Athletic director Ian McCaw resigned over the weekend. And Baylor announced that it would implement all 105 recommendations provided by Pepper Hamilton. They set up a sexual assault task force and created a communications website. The media coverage at this time continued the bad news with a little bit of a changing in the narrative. In January of 2017, several months after the Pepper Hamilton finding of facts, the sixth Title IX lawsuit was filed against Baylor, and this lawsuit had a bombshell claim that 31 football players had committed 52 acts of rape between the years of 2011 and 2014. But at this time, it's true that Baylor did get some credit for releasing the report and certainly for holding President Starr and Coach Briles accountable. Victims and their families called it a step in the right direction and were quoted in newspapers. Baylor started to get some positive press. However, the lack of specific details in this finding of facts did cause some problems. Eventually, Coach Briles sued the school for wrongly accusing him, claiming he did not cover up sexual assaults, and he called for Baylor to release all the details from the investigation. At this time, alumni and football program boosters rallied behind Briles. They created T-shirts with hashtag CAB for Coach Art Briles, and they wore them to football games. Here's a picture. They echoed his call to release all of the details from the report and the investigation, and even insinuated that there was some conspiracy behind the lack of releasing it. Well, the university, beginning in April 18th, 2017, hired Dr. Linda A. Livingstone, the first president, female president of Baylor University. And this did signal a new era. She was unconnected to any of the assault crisis. Um, uh, that she spoke frankly and directly about what the school was facing, because the school was still certainly not out of the crisis. There were 5 major investigations ongoing when Dr. Livingstone took control. And you can see these were major investigations from law enforcement, like the Texas Rangers, the state law enforcement in Texas, athletic associations, the Big 12 and the National Collegiate Athletic Association, and then the Clery Act, which is overseen by the Education Department's Office of Civil Rights, and of course Title IX, also U.S. Department Education Office of Civil Rights. In addition, several lawsuits continued and are still pending. There are new details that emerge in this drip by drip fashion that reveal more of the extent and the gruesome details of the sexual assaults themselves occurring between 2011 and 2015. Because the details of the Pepper Hamilton investigation have never been released, um, they have been subpoenaed. They claim that no written report was ever commissioned. It doesn't exist. But the evidence that they evaluated and the interviews they conducted, that information has also not been released. So my evaluation of their crisis response. Pre-crisis, Baylor University demonstrated an absolute failure of signal detection, prevention, and crisis preparation. Um, the organizational identity crisis emerged when this school, held up for its Christian values, was squarely at odds with this culture of sexual assault, victim blaming, and cover up. When the crisis event stage began, their response was inadequate, tone deaf, but they did turn it around when they called for the Pepper Hamilton investigation. However, they were quite vulnerable, waiting for that to be finished up, and therefore the negative media coverage really dominated the narrative in that second phase. When they did release the finding of facts and the subsequent actions they took, that did help change stakeholder perceptions. They came off as being sincere, accountable, and taking decisive, robust corrective action. However, the crisis continued to spread. Stakeholders splintered over the firing of Coach Briles. New lawsuits continued to emerge. New revelations came out in the media. When they did hire a new president, it represented a new era, but not the end. Post crisis, I don't believe they're in that stage yet. However, it's undeniable the university is much more prepared, aware, and capable of ensuring campus safety and Title IX mandates. There are still ongoing lawsuits, though, and unresolved issues. It means the crisis is not over, and they will still need to deal with it for the foreseeable future. Here's the list of my references in the research.